Today, on this edition of Let's Explore This, we are going to be exploring an especially small town in Lassen County, California. Doyle is the town we will be exploring today, which can be found here along this road I am now driving on, Highway 395. What lies here is mainly the more modern section for travelers passing through the area. Here, we are going to be focusing more on the historic section of town. Doyle is positioned about 41 miles from Susanville to the northwest and about 45 miles from Reno to the southeast. The history for this town does appear to be rather simple. As an incredibly small town, there is not a great deal to say about it. Still, there are a couple of interesting features that can be found here. So, let's see what we can find. This here is a website devoted to exploring Lassen County's past. There is here a bit of a write-up on Doyle. Now, that is not the only site that will be used. There will be a few others. As usual, those sources used for information will be listed at the very end of this episode in a list and denoted by the keyword info. Okay, so the earliest history of Doyle. It goes something like this. Reportedly, the evolution of Doyle proper, it was slow as molasses. In 1859, John W. Doyle settled approximately 2 miles of the town that would eventually be named for him. Unfortunately, though, he never did live to see it, as he died in 1892. In what would be considered Doyle proper, it was the stage stop known as Willow Ranch, dating back to the 1870s. Yes, this here is Willow Ranch Creek. It's just an itsy-bitsy creek, but you know what? I had only 2 hours to spend here to gather footage, therefore I had very little time to look closely for any points of interest. Basically, I simply drove around Doyle and took a bunch of footage. So, that Willow Ranch house, did I find it? It appears that likely I did not. It may not even stand anymore. Regardless, this here is the Willow Ranch circa 1900. You can read this more detailed post on the history of the Willow Ranch region right here. Reportedly, on June 6th of 1888, the Nevada-California-Oregon Railway reached Willow Ranch and established a station nearby called Long Valley. Nothing unusual, since John Doyle did operate the Long Valley Post Office. Now, this map here, it shows Constantia, or what is left of it, possibly. A nice tour that one would be, but it is a bit out of bounds. Regardless, it was first called Long Valley, located maybe just a mile or even less from Doyle. However, I guess I could show you a creek. You see, what we have here along Highway 395, very close to Doyle, might I add, is a nice creek, the Long Valley Creek. Maybe it's just, I don't know, slightly out of bounds for this episode. I don't know, but we're going to be exploring it anyway. Let's just turn Explore mode on briefly, because now, in order to get through the creek, we got to walk through this little desert forest of sorts. It's kind of a little maze, but in order to get to the creek, we need to walk through this. The only trick is finding a way through these trees and stuff. These little trees, little desert trees. Like right through here. Like which way would we go? Should we go that way? You know what? Let me go this way. So I can get down to the creek. So I'll meet you a little bit closer to the creek. Hey folks, this here is Long Valley Creek. I'm right next to it. Well, I can't get up right next to it. I think it's kind of muddy. There it is right there. And you can see it's got a huge expanse of like desert floodplain around it. I mean, I guess at times the creek has gone up there to where that top of that bank is there. That's a good probably 5 feet up. Yeah, probably is going up there, because if you take a look over here, the road is much higher. So if it's really raining out, I can imagine it going up over there. Right now it's just flowing on down here. I can probably walk across it, though it's probably muddy. There it is, Long Valley Creek, near Doyle, California. As I head back to the car, which is parked up on the hill up there, there is one thing I will mention. When you're walking in a desert like this, you want to watch where you're walking, because you don't know. There's like poisonous snakes and stuff around here, and you want to make sure that they're not around you when you're walking, or if they are, you want to let them go. Chances of seeing one are slim, but they're around here, and at this time of the year they're out because the lizards are out. And if the lizards are out, the snakes are out. But anyhow, I got to make it up. I got to make it back up to the car so that I can, like, you know, move on up over this hill here. I'm going back a little different way. Back to more history of Doyle. So, yes, another railroad, namely the Western Pacific, would literally become the catalyst of the development of the little town. When that railroad passed through, they named their station Doyle. Yes, this is the Western Pacific Depot in Doyle, circa 1915. Why don't we get a much closer view of the depot, this one being circa 1921? So, reportedly, the station was retired as a train order station in 1952. In 1956, Western Pacific filed a notice to reduce the station to non-agency status. Then, in 1957, the depot was officially retired. This here is the depot again from 1915. Not long after the railroad first passed through Doyle on January 28th of 1909, the Doyle Post Office was established. It was not until 1911 that the town site was eventually surveyed. Okay, now this here is Cowboy Joe Marsters. He is a bit legendary, not just here in Doyle, but also in regards to Butch Cassidy, Sundance Kid, and the so-called Wild Bunch. A member of the Wild Bunch took a young Joe Marsters to the gang's hideout. It is there where Joe was introduced to Butch Cassidy. Since Joe said he was able to work horses pretty well, Butch sent him to work with the herd. That led to quite a deep friendship, despite Joe never being an actual member of the Wild Bunch. Later in his life, Cowboy Joe, he did stunt work for motion pictures. Remember Stagecoach? Yes, the one from 1939. The first Western in which John Wayne starred. Well, it has been reported that Joe did work on that film. Here in Lassen County, on a ranch here in Doyle, Joe made his final years. He died in 1978, and is reportedly buried on that ranch. I wonder where that ranch could be. I wonder where his resting place is. Not sure, but you can read so much more about Cowboy Joe Marsden and his interesting life right here. This here is the Constantia Church, said to be located someplace here in Doyle. Now, the church itself is not all that important, at least as far as Doyle goes, because of it having been moved from what was once that very small nearby town of Constantia. This church does, however, stand right in the vicinity of the Long Valley Cemetery. Now, the reason you are seeing pics is just because I could not find footage. Not sure about the church, but I kind of do remember spotting a cemetery. The thing is, after going through my footage, I could not find it. Maybe I did not capture it, not sure. Still, it turns out Long Valley Cemetery is a bit important. It is a pioneer resting place that was established on the Willow Ranch in November of 1862. Not sure if Cowboy Joe is buried there, though he is said to have been buried on the ranch. Not sure, but that cemetery does feature a lot of folk that could be considered important to Doyle's past. Aside from these old buildings here, this building once held a grocery and a hotel. It is still very much a prominent landmark here in town. Let me now turn on Explore mode for just a tad bit. So, if there ever was a railroad here... Oh my God! Whew! A dog just scared the Jeepers Creepers out of me. So, I guess Doyle has its own doggy. Anyhow, I was going to talk about the railroad and depot, but it was already discussed. Moving on to the Dixon Memorial Park. Now, there is hardly any information to be found about the history or the origins of this park, other than its, more modern current uses. Maybe the park is newer, not sure. These days, though, it is home to the annual Doyle Days. Apparently, that event holds lizard races. That's right, you did hear that correctly. Lizard races. How you can make a lizard race is beyond me, but I did manage to come upon this very old 1990 era video. It is up on YouTube via DI Film. It is in Spanish, so sorry for you English-speaking folk out there, but it is the best video of those lizard races I could find.
El pueblito de Doyle, en el estado de California, quiere hacerse famoso por sus carreras de lagartijas. En los últimos 9 años se ha organizado una competencia de estos reptiles donde asiste gente de todas las edades. Las reglas son simples: no tocar al animalito, pero sí se le puede dirigir con chorritos de agua o tirándole tierra. Las celebraciones de 2 días sirven para recaudar fondos para el servicio de ambulancias y bomberos del pueblo.
So, let's turn on Explore mode again for just a bit. Yo, there's a bunch of bugs on the ground over here. I mean, there's a lot of them. What are those? I think they're grasshoppers. I think that's what they are. I mean, they're all over the place over here, but they weren't like behind the other side of the tracks. Why are they only over here? There's a bunch of them. They're all over the place. Wow. that was a lot of, I guess, grasshoppers, lots of bugs. So, I now have to show you a sign. The sign along the road right down there. The sign that says, Laver Crossing. This is a site that does not appear to be listed on maps. That means, I suppose, it is okay to fit into this episode. After all, it is very close, like right next to that town of Doyle. Let me turn on Explore mode here for a bit. Okay, folks. We have to make this left on this little road up here to go to whatever Laver's Crossing is. So let's do it and see what we might find here. Laver Crossing Road, Fort Sage, off-highway vehicle area. What is that? Doyle operation, keep safe. What am I entering? I have no idea, but we're about to find out. So, I just see desert forest, if you want to call it that. That's about all I see right now, but there is something down there, like in the distance. I can barely see it. It's way down there. There's like a couple of buildings and something. Down there, right below the mountains over there. So, I mean, is this road actually going over there? It looks like it's making a turn up here. I mean, folks, I don't know how far away Laver's Crossing is. Oh, maybe there's something down here. We might be coming onto it. It might be an old railroad crossing. That's a very good possibility. Railroad did come through here because Doyle had a station, I believe. And so, I didn't see no railroad in Doyle, but I think there is a railroad in the distance. I think I saw it. It was a ways away from Doyle, but I guess at one time it came to Doyle. But let's see, what are we coming onto up here? Something's up here. Yeah, it's a little town, I guess. I mean, this ain't even listed on the maps. I mean, you look on Google Maps, you can't find it. But yet there's a sign for it. Yes, there is a railroad up here. Actually, I gotta get off there because I need to show that for Doyle. There's stuff over here. It's gonna be like over there. It's like farm, horses and stuff. I mean, that's about all that is. We're now coming over the tracks. Let me pull over here for a minute. Not sure about this Laver crossing. Searching for the name Laver on Find a Grave for Lassen County shows nothing. Not sure what it refers to, but we are going to continue our trek down that road to bear witness to what lies ahead. Yes, this is an inquiring mind that wants to know. Wow. So folks, I am going to have to turn on Explore mode again, because someone has got to tell me why here in Laver's Crossing in the middle of nowhere, I mean, who comes down this road except people like me? Is there a tank there that has printed on it $5,000 and a number to call? What do you say we call that number? That's 530-249-8456. That's a dick move. I try to call this number, get my $5,000, and I can't because. Let me try this again.
You called is not available at this time. Please try your call again later. Announcement 1. The wireless customer you called is not available at this time. Please try your call again later. Announcement 1.
Damn, I can't get my $5,000 now. That's false advertising.
Okay, folks, now with that out of the way, we can get back on track. This is where Laver Crossing Road meets what appears to be mostly a dirt road. Fort Sage Road, I guess. Yes, right over there is where you saw that tanker with that $5,000 written on it. Now, moving to the other side of Fort Sage Road, it is also a dirt road. Apparently, though, this is a wilderness area. I have no time to do a lot of hiking today. Still, let's see what we can find out about this site. Reportedly, Fort Sage holds about 100 miles of trails for ATVs, four-wheel drive vehicles, stuff like that. Stuff I have no interest in. 100 miles, though, yes, I certainly have no time. I don't even have enough time for just a mile, really. Not today, folks, but Fort Sage does harbor a great deal of history. First, it was in the 1870s used as a military encampment. Despite often being referred to as a fort, it was in fact a military camp, and that camp is located on the eastern portions of Honey Lake. Now, Honey Lake itself, yes, it is very close to this area, but still out of bounds for this particular episode. Doyle, however, does appear to be the closest town, making Fort Sage appropriate for this episode. However, I am not going to go into great detail about the region. Instead, there is a blog post with a detailed historical sketch of the area that I will let you read at your own pace. With that said, let me now turn your attention to this postcard of Doyle in 1949. Cool buildings, huh? Let's zoom in to the one there on the left. The one right here. The Atlasta Hardware and Variety Building. Today, in 2025, it does appear to be long gone. Don't recall seeing the building either. Still, do you know what they sold in there? No. Well, reportedly, they sold this. A match cover. Not sure of the year, likely the mid-1900s, 1950s maybe. Almost certainly they sold lots more stuff than that. But, there's just not that much more to Doyle. It is such a small town that its history is very limited. Maybe there does exist a couple of more things I could discuss that, I failed to come across, maybe. Regardless, though, time is running out, and I do have to move on to my next destination, wherever that might be.